Alright, Brendan Portia at TopVelocity.net. I'm going to do a pitch analysis here for Will, and I'm going to pair him up with my favorite Japanese pitcher, Sal. He's a little guy, so I think it'll work with you, even though he's an elite athlete. That will be your differences, but we'll even look at your movement patterns. You move similarly, or his movements are so ideal and would work with your body size, so I think you could use it as a perfect example, or as your ideal comparison. So let's take you into your leg lift. Let's take Sal in his leg lift. All right, so you look fine there. You're closing off your left leg. You're leaving with your hip. If anything, you might want to look at your target. I mean, that's going to be more just making sure you're going to hit your target. I mean, there's a lot of visual aspects to being able to locate pitches and take your fastball where you want it. So I'd learn to look at your target early. All right, let's take you into your load. Okay, so you're moving forward really well. Because I think you're not looking at your target, you're over-rotating your shoulders. So you're too closed off with your shoulders. I think if you were looking at your target here, your shoulders wouldn't be so closed off. I think you're trying to over-close to create more hip-to-shoulder separation. And I always use the analogy of hitting. It'd be like a hitter kind of doing a Happy Gilmore, where you swing the bat all the way and you twist all the way around behind your head to hit the ball to try to keep your hands back. But it gets to a point where the over-exaggeration actually works against you, because the hips, the farther you're rotated back, the harder it is to get your hips through. So there's always a happy medium between where you're closing your shoulders off are to how, can you still get your hips to come through with your shoulders that far back. Because your trunk rotation is only so good. And then there's some guys who don't have that great a trunk rotation, so they have to be very careful how they time the closing of their hips to the closing of their shoulders, opening of their hips. So you're definitely over-rotated with your upper body. That's why keep your eye on your target and don't close off so hard. Okay? Let's watch this Sal go into his load. Okay, so you can see his shoulders. He's on the target, looking over the back shoulder, and his shoulders are just closed off. Okay? The key thing would be here, if we look at you, right before you initiate your leg drive right here, you're still very vertical off your back leg. So you need to learn how to get that drive leg to move down more, your hips to move more forward and down, and take that, as you flex down, to take that force vector into linear position, as we see here with the Sal. He really does an amazing job of going forward and down, getting those hips into those low linear position, that drive leg in low linear position. And even as he's about to land, he's still closed off in a full stride. Really exceptional. There's a lot of mobility, obviously, and a lot of strength and stability to be able to get into these positions. And that's when you're young, you don't really have a lot of that you gain as you grow old. But sometimes, at the same time, genetically, we don't gain this kind of mobility, strength, and stability all together, which makes us an elite athlete. So that's what you need to train for through the programs. Well, you're training to get yourself to this elite level athletically, and so it would be easier for you to move biomechanically through these movements. So you're definitely too linear here, too closed off here, okay? Two big issues right there. So let's take you in the front foot. So you throw your front side open, and your back side does extend, but I see a lot of aggressiveness in your front leg that I think is pulling your backside off. That's why I kind of see your foot rolling over here, and I don't see it really extending. It's just being kind of drug off the mound as you reach out with your front leg. So then you hit front foot. You're kind of, and you're in a place to where you really were reaching, so the force isn't really pushing you forward. It's kind of holding you down is what it's doing. And we even see the leg trying to get stability as the hips open. So you're late with that, which is going to come as you get more explosive. At the same time, too, as you're going in to stabilize your leg, you're trying to start hip rotation and trunk rotation, and that's usually an indication too of cocking early or the lift leg trying to generate all the momentum and speed of the delivery. I don't really see you cocking early. I just think it's your front side. You're throwing your front side out aggressively. It's pulling your backside off the rubber, and by the time your backside comes around, your front side is already gone with it, or your upper body is already gone with it. So if you see this yellow line in your pants, that's when your hips are open and and your legs stabilizing. So if we take us out of that same position here, okay, a little bit more slow motion here, he's if you can see, less dynamic opening in the front side. You can see that the front leg is holding this kind of flex position as the backside is driving. So it's a good indication the backside is actually driving the front side around instead of the other way around. If we watch with you here, you can see as you go out in the front foot, we see you immediately, as you initiate your drive, you immediately turn your foot open down here, okay, and then you reach out. And that doesn't happen with the sow until very late. So if we go a few frames back, his foot then closes off immediately. So it's creating the impression that you're reaching out and extending out with your front leg and not really driving through the back leg. So look when a sow's hips get open and back leg gets through. Look when your hips get open, your back leg gets through, about right here. And look at the difference in the upper body. His trunk is still vertical, shoulder's still back. Your trunk is forward. You started shoulder rotation. So here's the issue here. You're trying to over close your shoulders or counter rotate so early, so hard, because you know you're flying open so fast at the end, and that's mainly because your backside is not generating the force and not the dominant force driving the hips open, which if you did that, it would happen faster, and it would want to push away more from the back shoulder as opposed to going with the back shoulder, which means you don't have any hip to shoulder separation. So it's just learning how to kind of calm down the front side, calm down the lift leg, and how to load the drive leg better, and then power through with the drive leg, and how that's going to separate your back hip from back shoulder, because that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to separate the back hip from back shoulder. So if you're sitting there trying to throw the front side out and use the front side to drive the hips through, then you're never going to separate the back hip from back shoulder because the front hip is doing all the work, and it really needs to come more from the back side. That's why in foot sync, what I talk about in the 3X pitching and then the 3X mechanics guides, and that's the transition of the linear leg drive into the linear or the lateral leg drive into the linear landing position at front foot strike with the hips open. You really focus on the pattern of triggering hip rotation with the front leg and then powering hip rotation with the back leg. So that's really what needs to occur. The front leg can only trigger the hip rotation, and the back leg has to power the hip rotation. And right now your front leg is doing pretty much both. All right, so you can see when you go into external rotation at this point, you don't get the kind of maximum external rotation that a sow is going to get right here, okay? And that's because the arm was loaded back longer and the trunk transferred later, which is putting more load on the arm at that point, which is really what we're trying to do to generate high ball speed, okay? And then from there, you're forward. You're just late getting your leg extended. If you see a sow, he gets extended before pitch release, even though you might even be more in a forward trunk tilt position. It's just that weight shifted too early. So who cares if you get your weight over your front side or you get forward? If you shifted the weight too early to do that, you really you broke the chain to get to the end result, and we have to keep the chain connected from toes to fingertips, and then that's how we really get the end result. So, I mean, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to get to a lot of the positions that we see pitchers in. You're just jumping steps, or you're jumping links through the movement pattern. So just kind of go back to the drawing board, work on first. Well, really, what we do with 3X programs is you're going to work at front foot strike and just try to learn how the hips come through from the back leg driving or triple extending, and how the back hip and back shoulder separates. And then from there you can learn in reverse how to get more linear in that load position, which we do later on in the programs. And that would really be the key for you. So kind of get back to the drawing board and really get into this core principles that work us from the ground up, so we don't break the link, and we can efficiently and effectively build the power through the frame, and hit these key components that you're trying to hit. So I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions.